Alex, another week, another Monday.
Only the hottest Monday action going on around here. I'm bombing the AM with Scoops and the Wolf. Patrick Klebeck, how are you doing, sir?
I missed. I thought it was okay for me to walk away from the last 15 seconds of your Patriots game last night.
No, no,
I
you cannot do that.
went away. I just walked away. I was like, it's over. And then, what the hell, man?
And then you heard someone explode in the next room or in another house somewhere
Oh,
down the street.
I just checked Twitter, and all of a sudden, just everyone freaking out. I'm like, what the hell is everyone freaking out about? It's like, oh, 15-second bomb.
I
That's
yeah, it's been a while since the heart attack Pats have been around. For a while it was just kind of the dominant Pats, and then this year they obviously haven't been nearly as good as they've been in previous years, and I'd kind of started to write them off a little bit after last week. Um, I remember saying to my girlfriend, like, after they got the ball back with like 30 seconds left, saying, man, it would be really great if they brought back the heart attack Pats right now, but I don't know if I believe that that's actually going to happen. And then lo and fucking behold, that shit happens. I explode, and then I hear the entire sports bar that's like a block down the street from my apartment just erupt in like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Oh, that would be pretty amazing. I bet. I like to actually be watching that at a bar with a bunch of people that are clearly depressed. They're probably ordering drinks to try and forget the game, and
Yeah.
then to have that happen at the end, I bet that's pretty good.
Yeah, because this is a bad time to be a New York football fan. At
It's
least
weird.
the Jets are doing something. I'll give them that.
Geno
But
Smith is interesting. I'll
yeah,
give him that.
he's a rookie. He's a rookie. But the Giants, man, ugh.
Yeah. And separate from that, Bears had already played on Thursday and won against the Giants, but man, my fantasy imploded on
Yes,
Sunday.
mine has been
Randall
imploded for a while.
Cobb gone. Who else did I lose?
I lost
Who's
James Jones in our Giant Bomb League, so I felt the sting of that game as well.
I lost three different players across like crucial players in different leagues. Oh yeah, no. So Stephen Ridley, who I had picked up early because he was one of the top running back prospects this year, didn't do anything. Oh, then
Yeah,
all of a sudden the Patriots have a running game and he scores 22 points and I have him
I
on
know,
my
right?
bench. God damn it.
Yeah, it's the worst. Fantasy football is the worst, and yet I do it every single goddamn year in multiple leagues. Nothing stops me. Nothing stops me torturing myself. What am I? I think I'm about to be 1-5 in our league. Just
Yeah.
cannot pull it together. I'm winning in our Giant Bomb League though, so I'm beating a bunch of Giant Bomb users I don't actually know very well.
See, that's
And
all that matters. That's
yeah,
really all that matters.
as long as there's some kind of victory in there.
So this weekend you played The Wolf Among Us.
I
Telltale's
did.
latest game. You played it start to finish. I imagine probably because it's only what,
It's
two
like a
hours
couple
long.
hours. Yeah, it's like 2.5 hours at most. It's yeah. So this is based on the Fables comic series, which is about a group of it's fairy tale and storybook characters all living together under the guise of being normal humans in kind of a modernish society. I think the comics take place like in the 2000s, whereas this takes place in like the early to mid 80s in New York.
Right.
So it has much more of like kind of a grimy New York feel than like the whole thing takes on kind of like a noir like atmosphere to it. It's you play as Bigby, who is the big bad wolf. You are the sheriff of Fabletown, and you are.
So do people look?
Yes, they look human, and
Okay.
the reason they look human is because they have spells cast upon them that make them look human. But that's really expensive, so sometimes you'll see certain fables like hiding in their normal garb. Like Mr. Toad doesn't have the money to make himself look human, so he's walking around his apartment building as a frog, which you're not supposed to do. That's against the law of fables. So you admonish him for that.
Is the human side aware that there are creatures?
No, it is
Okay.
all meant
So
to
okay.
obfuscate and confuse humanity from knowing what is going on over there. Uh, and so I won't get into any spoilers because it's obviously a 5 episode season, and I don't really want to, kind of. There's a nice little, twist toward the end of this one that I absolutely don't even want to telegraph. But
Okay.
what I will say is that this is an absolutely perfect fit for what Telltale likes to do with its games. It's a detective story with kind of a weird, fantastical twist to it. it fits absolutely in line with what they did with Walking Dead, the sort of choice making, the quick time events, the basic exploration and dialogue tree stuff that they do. It all fits together really, really well. Bigby is a really interesting character. You know, they set him up pretty nicely to begin with. You meet a nice cadre of different Fable side characters, like, you know, one of the three little pigs. Your assistant through much of the episode is I believe Snow White. And then there's also, you know, Beauty and the Beast live in your apartment building. They're having marriage problems. Like, there's all sorts of like crazy shit going on. The Woodsman is this like prostitute beating, you know, alcoholic who you have to stop at the very beginning of the game because he's like destroying the apartment building he and Mr. Toad and a few other people live in. It's dark and it's kind of fucked up, but it's really interesting the way they've kind of tied that story together and the mystery they're starting to build out of that.
It sounds, I guess, the reason I was cautious about this was it's not even Fable's fault, but I watched that Once Upon a Time show for like 7 episodes because I thought the premise sounded all right, and it was
it's a bad show.
Yeah, and it was a bunch of ex-Lost writers, so usually I watch at least a couple episodes of folks that were involved in that show, and that show's terrible. That show is complete garbage, and so I think part of that has stuck out in my mind as Fable's, you know, The Wolf Among Us has kind of come together because it's like, well, that sucked, so why do I want another one of those? But it sounds like the darker take seems to be working pretty well.
The fact that this is much more like just a sustained mystery as opposed to, you know, kind of like what weird I mean, again, it's one episode, so I can't say this for certain, but it seems like it's going to be a longer term sustained kind of, you know, mystery solving thing over the course of the 5 episodes versus just like, hey, you know, what fantastical character can we bring in this week and then this week and whatever. And they're building up some pretty dark themes and some pretty, you know, shadowy kind of behind the scenes happenings in Fabletown. Your boss is Ichabod Crane, who is like this ridiculous asshole. Like, he literally ends your one scene of dialogue with him by screaming at God, I keep forgetting Snow White. He keeps yelling at Snow White to make sure to call his masseuse to make sure he can get his massage appointment early.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
And then his assistant is an alcoholic flying monkey from Oz. So, you know, it's like there's a lot of really good weird shit in there, and the writing is as good as anything in the first episode of The Walking Dead. I think, like, the character interactions and the dialogue choices and the way that stuff builds up is really, really good. I was super impressed with it. Like, I had no idea what to think of the Fables comic beforehand. I've never read them. I didn't know much about them before I went and saw the game a couple of months ago. But playing it has me super intrigued, and I really am looking forward to the other episodes of this.
The Walking Dead was a lot of, here, let's set up some really distressing moral choices, you know, a lot of gray area, a lot of whatever you do, it still kind of sucks, and it's just a matter of, do you have the conviction to believe in this version of the suck that you have to go down? Is that similar here, or is it, you know, like, what are without giving away what the choices are necessarily, like, what sort of temperament are the choices?
Well, so, I mean, I'll give away one because it comes pretty early in the first episode, where you're given the choice where you're investigating a murder. I won't say of who or why, to what extent. And you have 2 options in front of you that are pretty blatant. One, you can go and tell the husband of the person who's been murdered what's going on after sort of finding out who he is and have a vague understanding of where the case is starting to begin and take shape. Or you take a phone call from Toad, who is, you know, it sounds like someone's ripping through the apartment, you know, looking for something, like like he's in danger. So you have the choice where you can either leave Toad to his devices for, you know, a while and go tell the husband first, or you can go check on Toad and risk maybe, you know, something happening where you go back to the husband and he's either not there or, you know, there's something is going on. So there's a couple of different ways things like that can play out. And there's also, like, dialogue choices, like, you know, if you respond to Snow White's questions, you know, repeatedly, like, in different ways, like, it'll do the "she took note of that, she will remember that" kind of answers, the way The Walking Dead did. So
I actually did not know this was the case, but now I have a huge issue with The Wolf Among Us, having not played it yet, which is exactly what you were talking about there. So in The Walking Dead, the game defaulted to having story notifications turned on, which basically
Yes.
meant that when a characters took note of a decision, it kind of basically gave you a text readout of someone took note of this. Didn't tell you exactly what it meant or how it would come into play later, but at
Right.
least told you that a character had taken note of that or noticed something you did.
Mhm.
I found from the way I like to play that game, when I would see stuff like that, I would start framing the game too much like a game, and I would
Sure.
often not respond as emotionally. Like, because, for example, I know that, like a lot of people, I tend to end up playing good characters
Mhm.
in video games, as some sort of extension or reflection of myself. But I found that I picked more honest answers if I didn't think the game was watching me and calculating it, even if I thought about it, like, of course it probably is. I just didn't, when I didn't have that notification, I was able to step back a little bit from it. And then I guess in Wolf Among Us, you cannot turn those off. Those are
Oh, okay.
just ingrained into the game. The Chris Sullentrop, the New York Times writer, mentioned it on Twitter just a couple of minutes before we started. And
I think
I don't.
I didn't really notice that because I didn't turn those off in Walking Dead because I don't know, I guess maybe just for me they didn't really bother me as much. I didn't mind taking note of the fact that something I had said or done had some impact on the grander scheme of things. I didn't mind knowing that. And honestly, like a lot of the times, the dialogue choices that you are making that actually do have an impact, you don't always notice that those seem as important as they are.
Hmm.
Like sometimes it's just a matter of Snow asking you, like giving you a list of suspects and saying, who do you think it is? And whoever you name in that is someone that she'll remember later on. You don't think it's really a big deal. You think you're just having casual, we're investigating conversation, and then that becomes a thing. I chose to not respond with anyone. So, like silent, they emphasize early on that silence is a totally legitimate answer if you don't feel like answering something. And that can have its own, kind of set of reactions to it.
Yeah, I remember talking to Sean Vanneman and Jake Rodkin, who have since split off to form their own thing, but they wrote the first season, or were kind of the lead designers on The Walking Dead's first season, and they said that was something they wanted. That was kind of introduced in The Walking Dead, this idea that you can not respond, just have
Right.
these sort of ellipses, and they said that was, as the series went on, was the most challenging thing to write and design around, was the amount of people that actually continued to like mostly choose to not respond or engage. That I guess as a writer and a designer, that became one of their bigger challenges, was to continue to allow that to be an option, especially in situations where you kind of come across as a gigantic asshole
Oh
by
yeah.
not picking an option.
Or a mute. You could be one of the two because apparently there is like an all mute playthrough version of Walking Dead that you can do. I've never bothered to do it. I started playing one episode a second time that way, and I was like, you know what, I can't do this for an entire game. It would drive me crazy. But I did find myself actually using the silence option a couple of times this time, just because it felt like there were moments where I just didn't really want to give a definitive answer. So I felt like contemplative silence was perhaps the more character specific and correct way to respond. And the way the characters react to that stuff is pretty right. It feels pretty right on. Like it doesn't feel like they're berating you for not talking all the time. It feels like they just sort of are taking your silence to mean something else entirely, which is makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing it. I'll definitely get to it this week.
Yeah, you get a solid couple hours in front of you. You can blow through that thing, but not in like a you'll miss anything kind of way. Like it's breezy, but has just enough to it to kind of keep you like totally focused on it the entire way through.
Yeah, I do like the time element. The idea that where you choose to go and investigate actually ends up influencing the game as a form of choice, even if it feels less active than kill this person or this person, or
right.
choose this dialogue choice. Like I think that's a new wrinkle that could easily see how down the line they could put you into some really uncomfortable situations.
Oh yeah.
With that idea.
Yeah, it's really really good stuff. I highly recommend it to anyone who enjoyed The Walking Dead at all. Even if the Fables like environment and backstory doesn't sound like it would be your thing. Trust me when I say I don't care about dark fairy tales at all, but this shit is actually really really well done.
Interesting. I finished Rayman Legends over the weekend. Well, finished
Right.
Rayman Legends. I
You still got some dues to go collect, I assume.
well, I collected probably, if you exclude the stuff that opens up along the way, like the Rayman Origins portraits that you can go back
Right.
into, uh, the invasion stuff. I did probably half the invasion stuff that opened up as you play through the game, and I did one of the Dark Rayman ones, which I really enjoyed those. I think those were a lot of fun, where you have to, reframe your layout because Dark Rayman is copying your layout, and so he can kill you if you run into your old self. I think it introduces a pretty interesting set of strategic play there.
For sure.
But I had only collected like half of the little dudes that you
Hmm.
save throughout the game. Like there is a lot more to that game when the credits have rolled, and I don't think I'll end up collecting everyone. Although I do think it actually seems pretty reasonable to do so.
It's
I think
hard. Like I went back and tried to collect some of the more obscure ones and some of the harder levels, and yeah, it's tough, but it's definitely not impossible. Like if I had tried to do that in Origins, I think I would have gotten so frustrated I would have, probably thrown a controller across the room. I felt like there were a couple I was having a real hard time getting, but like some of the ones I'd missed before, I just like by paying attention to it, and knowing they were there, I felt like I had a much easier time going back and getting them.
yeah, I think it's going to quickly turn into uh, now that I've sort of like taken in the aesthetic and the audio and stuff like that. I'll feel okay turning down the volume and just playing it like when I'm watching games on Sundays.
Right.
Like and I'll just start collecting more of the dudes. But I need to at least, even if I don't get to all 700, I want to see that last world, which I
Hmm.
have. Have you? Did you unlock the last world?
I did not unlock the very last thing.
Okay, so I'm going to spoil what that last thing is because maybe it will motivate you to do it as well because it's what motivated me. I have to see this stuff now. So slight spoiler, I guess, to cover your ears for the next 10 seconds.
Hmm.
But there are 8-bit versions of all of the music levels.
Oh no shit. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I got through all the main game stuff, and I played a bunch of like the Origins levels, and like all the different side stuff. But okay, how did you end up with that?
I don't know. There's someone on Twitter mentioned it to me. They're like, "Oh, make
Okay,
sure you get the last world," and I was like, "Ah." Like I finished the credits, so it's that the game is at least signaling to me you have seen most of what I have to offer. Now it's just
right.
a matter of going to get everything else. But then when I found out what that last world was, I was like, oh, I need to see that. Given that those stages were far
Those
and
are the best.
away.
Like, yeah, easily the best part of the game for me. I liked the touchscreen stuff, and I liked a lot of it. But man, those musical levels were easily the most fun thing in that game for me.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I had so much fun with that. I disheartened a little bit to see the game, dropping in price so quickly, which suggests it didn't sell particularly well. But I don't know that for a fact. Um, but man, what a good game! Like what a goddamn great game! Like I had way too much fun with that, and as I started to realize that it was ending, it really bummed me out because I would have played easily a game twice as long
Oh yeah,
of that quality.
yeah. I mean, the Rayman stuff is interesting because I think by and large it's definitely the best stuff Ubisoft has been producing for the last couple of years. I mean, they've made some damn good games, in recent years, but like the Rayman resurgence is totally crazy to me because that was not a franchise I ever completely expected to get resurged at all, to ever really become a thing again before Origins came along.
Well, see, like
Like,
Rabbids was going to
yeah,
essentially take that, and that was the new Rayman for Ubisoft in terms of having sort of a mascot set of characters, and they drove that into the ground
yeah. I mean, that
about
shit's
as
a cartoon
far
now.
as they could. And the fact that Rayman is now a legitimate character again, regardless of whether they do much else with him, I think is pretty fascinating. And yeah, those are just now I just want to see what Michel Ancel does next because
I think
goddamn,
you and
like
I
I wish
talked before.
I could just give Ubisoft my $60 now. Like let him do whatever he wants, please. Here's my 60. I'm in.
Yeah, I think you and I talked before that we would like to see maybe him do something other than Rayman next. Whether that's Good and Evil 2 or something else entirely.
But if he wants to
Uh,
make another Rayman,
I won't
I
argue.
will play another
I
Rayman.
won't argue either. Like I think Origins and Legends are two of the best platformers of the last probably like decade or so. There's obviously a couple of big Mario games and other things in there too, but like as far as like 2D platformers go, I can't think of anything like I've had more fun with than those two games in the last few years.
No, no, and especially contrasted against, what Nintendo has done with Mario in the 2D realm.
Yeah,
I think the original or the Wii New Super Mario Brothers was a game I had a lot of fun with at the time, but it also didn't stick with me
right.
beyond the time that I had it.
It's fun,
Yeah, but
but
I don't know if it was particularly memorable, especially
nah.
within the general Mario canon, and especially put up against games like Super Mario 3D Land on the
Yeah,
3DS, or the Galaxy games. But yeah, I mean Rayman is just this generation like a phenomenal 2D platformer up with the likes of Super Meat Boy for me. Different
for
types
sure.
of platformers,
Not
absolutely,
as
but.
sadistic, but
No, no, but definitely up there in terms of my favorites.
totally.
And then I just figured I'd just keep rolling on the Ubisoft train, and I booted up Splinter Cell Blacklist, which very
Ah,
quickly I was afraid that if I didn't try and sneak in that game now, at no point would I ever go back to it.
oh, absolutely not. Would you have like, if you've looked at the calendar for the next couple weeks, like you basically have 7 days at this point before everything fucking flies off the handle. So
Yeah, yeah. So whether or not most games I start, I tend to finish. So my guess is I will finish Blacklist, but I at least wanted to get into it and get a sense of it before we kind of get hit with a tidal wave. And yeah, I played one mission. Where I
mhm.
played like the intro and then I played the first main mission, and I don't know how I feel about it, which I guess is one way of saying that I don't like it. But I think I actually do like it. I think I just need to spend some more time with it.
How's James Spader in it?
He seems fine. Which character is he playing?
I'm joking. He has that
Oh,
Blacklist
that's right.
show.
He's got that
Yeah,
show.
yeah. He's got that show. And also, apparently, on this week's show, not only are they really hammering home, basically, they're really hammering home the whole this guy is sort of like Hannibal Lecter, except not thing, because they got the guy from Manhunter, who was originally the villain in Manhunter, to be a Blacklist villain this week.
Okay.
So I don't know. That show is weird. I don't know if you've watched any of that show. I've tried
No.
to watch a little bit of that show. It's fucking weird.
James Spader. I really like James Spader, but there seemed to
Yeah.
be it was James Spader being too much James Spader when I was watching.
Oh,
It was
there's
too
no such thing as
hammy.
James. There's no such thing as too much James Spader.
I don't know. I also couldn't take him seriously with the hat.
Have you ever seen Crash?
I have seen Crash, and I really
Yeah.
liked what was the
Not the
law show?
racist Crash, but the car crash
No,
movie Crash.
what was the lawyer show he was in with?
Oh, Boston Legal?
Yeah, but he was awesome in
Yeah.
Boston Legal. That was a great show.
Him and Shatner together was a pretty good pairing.
Yeah, that was a lot. That show was way better than it had any right to be, and it was mostly because of those two.
Yeah. All right,
Uh,
so talk about actual Blacklist. Talk about actual Splinter Cell. Like, how is that treating you so far?
well, it's interesting because it's obvious how much Assassin's Creed has influenced so much about all the other games at that company.
Right.
It's very early on that the game tries to hammer home the idea of you slinking about and crawling in ways that feel awfully Assassin's Creed-like.
Hmm.
In a way that I think fits the game. I think what I need to try and figure out, and the part that I was having some trouble with, was that stealth games differ on how they approach sort of the alert stage, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
In terms of when you are caught, does that essentially mean it's game over, even if you're not dead, or should you try and continue to play and go from there? Like, for example, in the Metal Gear games, even though there is an alert phase, oftentimes I would find that the amount of time I would wait for that alert phase to go away, I might as well just die and start the sequence over again.
Right.
And that's a lot of what got me to get really frustrated with that series, because that just seemed like an enormous time waster, and a very like ineffective game design. So I started playing Splinter Cell kind of with that mindset of when I would get caught, I would just let myself get killed, and then I would just kind of start the sequence over again. But there do seem to be a lot of things in place, such as they have this mechanic where when you are caught and when you move out of the way, you will see a silhouette of Sam that's like they call it your last known position, and that's supposed to be, this idea that if you can get away, well, they're going to go there, and you'll know where they're going to go, so that you actually can counterattack. So
Right.
I think I need to. Part of the reason I was having some trouble with the game was because my specific playstyle that I was trying to enact, which was partially based on my response to previous stealth games, meant that maybe I was not playing the game in the way that you were supposed to, in the sense that the world and the combat situations are a little more dynamic and not black and white.
Sure.
In the sense that when you are caught, you can kind of keep going.
Right.
So I need to give that another shot, and it's an awfully pretty looking game. It plays really well. I like the execute mechanic, as dark as that is to say to say
Sure.
out loud.
Sure.
I do like the idea of how you can mark people, then track them, and then set them up in situations where you can kind of take them all at once. And I also have gotten the sense of, when I expressed a slight ambivalence on Twitter about the game, that for a lot of people, they look at this as a spiritual successor to Chaos Theory, which I know
Sure.
is definitely regarded as the best or one of the best Splinter Cell games.
That's the last one I played pretty much the whole way through.
Right, and specifically, people were huge fans of the Mercs vs. Spies multiplayer mode, of which
also that soundtrack.
I didn't play Chaos Theory.
That one had, I remember that was one of the early instances of some major DJ musician type doing the soundtrack. I just can't remember who it was offhand. It was one of those Ninja Tune dudes.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that too. So, and so I don't really engage with the multiplayer stuff. So a part of the game is kind of lost for me, because that's just not something I'm particularly interested in doing. But I'll keep playing it because Wolf Among Us I'll get through pretty quickly. I finished Rayman Legends, and by and large, I feel sort of caught up. Although everyone talking about Pokemon is making me think I should try Pokemon.
Yeah.
Everyone is talking about Pokemon, and I feel left out.
To be fair, everyone was talking about Animal Crossing for a long time there. And granted, I'm much more of an Animal Crossing person than a Pokemon person, in that I have played Animal Crossing and I have never played Pokemon. But I fell off of Animal Crossing pretty hard after, I don't know, I'm going to say a month and a half, 2 months.
Sure.
My girlfriend still plays it. I don't. I feel like I would probably end up in the same scenario where I would start playing Pokemon, I would get really into Pokemon for a month, and then I would probably just put it by the side and never actually finish it or do anything with it. I don't need more games like that right now. I need games I can actually finish. I need to complete things.
I know what everyone's talking about Pokemon.
I know. It's really annoying, because I don't know anything about goddamn Pokemon.
That's
I know about
all
Ash
I
Ketchum.
saw on
That's
Twitter.
about it.
That's all I saw on Twitter this week.
Team Rocket.
Is
Team Rocket in this one?
Meowth, that's right.
Is there a Squirtle?
I probably know more about the Pokemon cartoon than I know about actual Pokemon, because I used to kind of religiously watch the Pokemon cartoon before I went to school.
Yeah,
not ashamed of that.
I guess you're actually just about the right age to have at least caught wind of that. I think I was just too old when people, when kids really started getting into Pokemon and became a big deal, to actually, I was at that teenage phase where it was whatever, that shit's for kids.
Yeah.
And
Pokemon
Red
and Blue came out when I was, hold on, I'm trying to scrape my brain. I think I was definitely in middle school, but I don't know 6th, 7th, or 8th. I'm not sure. But I was absolutely, I was absolutely of the right age for Red and Blue to hook me hard. And I think I played through Pokemon Yellow, which is the Pikachu-focused version, and then I have not touched a single one since. Although, like any sane person, I did become obsessed with Pokemon Snap, because you can enjoy Pokemon Snap regardless of your enjoyment of Pokemon.
Yeah, I have dabbled in Pokemon Snap. I never really played it much, but I did watch Ryan Davis play a lot of Pokemon Snap. I remember him being a big old fan of that game, and I thought that was cute, but I never owned it. Again, Pokemon was never my thing when I was that, the age when Pokemon was a big deal, and I never caught up with it as the years went on, and I feel like I feel like it's too late for me, man. You know, it's like if I start Pokemon now, it just wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel like I belong there. You know, I'm just.
I think you're selling yourself short, Alex. I think
I
you.
mean,
I
I do
think
that a
you.
lot. I do that sometimes, but I also think I might be right this time.
I do sympathize with your perspective that the idea of getting caught up. I mean, obviously, Pokemon is an RPG.
Yes.
Games like that aren't short,
No.
and there's time is a precious commodity as we head into the next month and a half of our lives. If we want to sort of remain current as we head towards Game of the Year stuff, and so I am tempted by Pokemon, but short of a download code for ye old eShop showing up in my
Mhm.
email, I think I can probably resist the temptation
That's a big
to jump
download
in.
too. Everyone's telling me that game's a big download, so
It's a couple gigs
mind
or
your
something
space.
like that.
Mind your
Yeah.
space.
Um, yeah. So I
Pokemon.
don't know, I just it was bothering me over the week. I was starting to get that itch where I don't want to play this because I want to play this. I want to play this because I feel left out, and it was bumming me out.
I'm used to feeling left out, so I'm like okay with it now. Like I can kind of just roll with it, especially in circumstances where I don't feel like I necessarily need to be included. And I don't think I need to be included in the Pokemon phenomenon.
I
So
guess that's true. I guess that's true.
that's just me.
So yeah, that's what I played over the weekend. You checked out some WWE thing, right?
Yeah, so a couple of embargoes came up late last week and this morning for things I saw last week. You may have seen before I get to wrestling, you may have seen the Madden Coach Glass trailer that went up on the site recently, which was all about tablets and next-gen Madden and shit. That was the one thing I couldn't talk about when we were talking about EA Sports games last week.
Right.
The trailer's on the site. You can see what it is. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that, but I will say that is actually cooler than you think it is.
Okay.
The other embargo that came up this morning was some more WWE 2K14 stuff, which I won't bore you with excruciating details because I know you don't really pay attention to wrestling at all. So
No.
a lot of this stuff is pretty obscure, like minutia that people would not understand unless they watch wrestling. But I will say that what I played of the game and what I checked out of it actually led me to believe this year's game is actually going to be quite good. The engine is still very much the same gameplay-wise, but they have fixed some of the AI stuff that used to drive me crazy in that game. Not all of it, but some of it. All the creation stuff is still there, including the story stuff, so Video Game Championship Wrestling can continue on unabated.
Have they expanded? Because I will say, even though I could not care less about this game, watching those story mode videos that people were making was I want to learn about some more ghost problems.
Yeah.
Am I going to learn about more ghost problems this year?
I think most of the same ghost problems that were in there last year are in there this year. That's one of those modes that I think they kept in, but they didn't really add much to because
That's
it's
too
been
bad.
so...
They are missing the way to bring in an outside audience, and it is
Part of my secret hope is that they never get around to fixing that mode. They just keep adding things to it because of how broken it is kind of what makes it great.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. If it actually became good, it would ruin part of the magic, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want good wrestling storytelling. I want the worst, most incoherent possible, and it seems like that shit will be there for sure. Most of the changes they made are more to like the universe mode, which is just like the endless career thing that you go through. They've added like rivalries and other stuff to that, which is all pretty smart. The only thing that I was really surprised by and liked that was new, the rest of it was just stuff I'd seen before that was more finished now. Was this thing they added to the 30 Years of WrestleMania mode called The Streak, which is about The Undertaker never having been beaten at WrestleMania. So there's two ways to play it. You can either try and beat his streak with any wrestler in the game. The problem is you are facing a version of The Undertaker that has his AI completely reprogrammed to be like a last boss. So anytime you hit him with a finisher, he'll either pop right back up or the lights will go out in the arena and he will just pop up behind you and then hit you with a tombstone or something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so they made him super, super hard to beat, which is kind of great. And the other version is you're just the Undertaker and you're just taking on an endless string of opponents that just keep running out and trying to beat you. So it's like this endless gauntlet match of dudes that is... It's the kind of fringe competitive stuff they haven't really done with any of those games in a long time. It's like a mini game basically, but it's the kind of thing that I wish they would do more of.
Sure.
And this actually seems like it's pretty good and pretty fun. Everything about that game seems pretty fun. Uh,
Tovan is asking, have they fixed the effing loading times?
we can say fucking on this show, Patrick. You can just say fucking.
Okay.
Um,
Okay,
it's not a family show. No one's awake this early. The version I saw on 360 had load times, but they were not abysmal. I think the 360 version is always loaded faster than the PS3 version, so I would say I
par
don't
for the
know
course.
if they have fixed the PS3 version.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got. But that game looks fun. It's out in a couple weeks. They're supposed to send it to me soon for review, so I'll have more to say about that then. But I will say that I have liked what they have showed of me thus far. So
Cool. All right, well, let's point out to people in the chat if they want to ask questions, shoot them my way. We'll start checking out some of those after we get through some of the brief headlines.
yeah, I got one good one that I think is kind of funny.
Okay.
Is Daz Dillinger, rapper from the Dog Pound, is very upset that Grand Theft Auto 5 uses a couple of his songs in the game, and he was apparently not paid in a way that he feels was in accordance with his licensing rights and what have you. He was apparently he never approved the song being in the game. He wants to sue and all that kind of stuff. This is interesting for a couple of reasons, because one, he sounds like he has a pretty legitimate case. I mean, if he just didn't sign off on the song being in the game, then clearly, something's wrong there. The problem is, this is actually kind of an interesting lesson in music licensing, because if you look at the credits for that game, this is something that Dan Teasdale pointed out on Twitter, there are like 5 different music publishing and label groups that own the rights to those songs, like if not more. So a lot of times what will happen is that when something like this happens, usually the publisher is just going to one of those licensing companies or publishing groups or labels and getting it through them. There were tons of artists that appeared in Rock Band that I don't think necessarily knew they were appearing in Rock Band until they had already been announced, because we did the negotiations with the labels. It's like that's how that stuff works.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I find this interesting because there are tons of people I've seen on forums like freaking out, like, how could Rockstar just steal his song? How could all this happen? It's like, no one stole his song. They just licensed it through a different group and paid what they wanted to pay, because he was apparently very insulted by the fact that he only got offered like a few grand for each song, which I can understand. That sounds like not very much money, but
Right.
especially for a game that made, what, $1 billion already?
Yeah.
But it's just funny to me to see people like sort of leap all over this, and just because nobody understands how music publishing works at all. I didn't understand it for many, many years. Never made any sense to me. Still doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But, especially in rap music, when you're using a lot of samples and there's different musical groups you have to clear stuff through, it can get really convoluted and fucked up really quickly.
So do you get the sense that this maybe is a story where someone's just trying to grab a headline alongside GTA's skyrocketing success as opposed to a legitimate beef?
I think he has legitimate beef. I mean, in the sense that I think he is pissed off, and I think he was insulted that he didn't get offered more money for it. But I also think that he maybe doesn't even necessarily know who owns the rights to all his songs anymore, because that stuff can get transferred and sold and changed over as companies morph and close and different things happen. So it's actually possible they licensed it through someone that he has no like immediate contact with, other than receiving checks every now and again.
There was this is completely unrelated to music, but there was a game that came out on Steam recently. I can't remember what it's called, but it sort of doesn't matter. But basically, it was published on Steam, and the original developer sort of like released a comment saying like, "Oh, we didn't know our game was being released on Steam. We didn't we didn't know this was happening."
Oh dear.
Because I guess what had happened was the company that published it, I think in Russia, had given the international rights to a separate company. That company then took the game and put it on Steam, without consulting the original developer, because they didn't need to, according to, the rights that they were sold. But that's there's a case where it sounds like maybe something similar occurred, where just the way rights are sold and who has control over what, allows them to do certain things that are not necessarily with the consent of the original creator.
Rights holding, copyright, all that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to like multiple publishers, multiple cooks in the kitchen kind of situations, are so confusing and convoluted and awful. It's why my lifelong dream of being a music supervisor, I just never really pursued it, because realizing all the contractual work and horrible like logistics involved in trying to make something like that happen gave me the worst headaches I've possibly ever had. So, sorry, I'm giving up that dream forever because I just don't even want to deal with that shit.
Yeah, that sounds like a giant pain in the ass. Um, let's see. Do 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 do. Not like a lot of small stuff happened. Like I'm not even gonna pretend to care. The Kingdom Hearts 2.5 remix was announced. I can't. I
Hmm.
played through Kingdom Hearts 2 once, and once was enough to suffer that much. Like that story didn't make any sense, and I wanted to die by the end. Tetsuya Nomura, please leave Square Enix. Please go away.
Sure.
You see this weird headline about Ellen Page, nude model, being tucked away inside Beyond Two Souls?
Yeah, so I guess the European version of that game has some kind of like mild nudity moment in it. I don't know. That was something they did in Indigo Prophecy as well, where there was like naked stuff. There was actually like you could see stuff in the sex scene in that game in Europe, but they took that out of the American version, if I recall correctly. Um, so yeah, it doesn't surprise. There is like there are moments where like Ellen Page is like taking a shower or dressing herself, but they obviously in the American version they pan away so that you can't see any of the what's the sensitive term, boobage. But in this
Oh.
case, I guess that someone found a way to hack into the game and bring out the Ellen Page nude model. I have not gone and looked this up myself, because I have self-respect. So I didn't.
Were you searching for the words there?
Yeah, I was searching for the words. I was looking for the right term, but because I don't really care about seeing. Apparently they did censor the European version as well. I don't know. I thought I had heard at some point that there was a naked Ellen Page somewhere in one of those versions of the game, but I guess there is in the game. They just didn't show it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really care about seeing digital Ellen Page naked personally. Doesn't do a whole lot for me. But hey, good luck. If that floats your boat. I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't surprise me at all that would be in there and that someone would go out of their way to dig that up. But Patrick, I mean, do you care? I don't
No,
care.
I just think it's interesting that this happened a second time. This also occurred in Heavy Rain,
Hmm.
where a an unused model but a fully rendered
Oh yeah, that did happen. I
model
remember.
was found in the game, and there were ways of glitching that out. It does appear, at least this is a little bit different, in which you need a dev kit to make this work,
Right.
because you need to uh, get control of the camera, which is only I guess available using a dev kit. So I don't think this is going to potentially turn into a controversy for the game or get any sort of recall, because
No.
unless you go on
No.
YouTube, there's pretty much no way to see this for the average person.
Also, M-rated game. I mean, it doesn't say
Yeah,
contains nudity
sure.
in
Yeah,
that,
that's
but
true.
it is an M-rated game. So
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess. Well, that was the difference with like Oblivion, right? Like Oblivion was rated teen, but then got an M because they had rendered out some models or something like that. That was a long time ago. I think that was the case. Phil Spencer says Xbox One PC cross-platform play makes a lot of sense. Um,
okay.
that seems like that would be cool. I don't know exactly. Uh, it's one thing to say that makes a lot of sense. It's quite another to actually give developers the opportunity to do something like that. But
Hey Phil, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah, he is right. Of course, I like that he points, like, this headline's on Joystick, but I think the actual website was Aus Gamers, Australian Gamers. It says I guess he pointed to Shadowrun. The well-liked, well-beloved reboot of Shadowrun. That
Oh, you
actually
mean the
did,
reboot of Shadowrun that I totally forgot existed until you just mentioned it right now?
yeah, but that did have the ability through Games for Windows Live, if it was called that at
It
that
did,
point,
yes.
to play Xbox and PC players at the same time. This generation has been long,
Hmm.
Alex. Like Shadowrun was a game that came out.
Yeah.
That's
I
weird.
remember
That's
when Shadowrun came out. I remember when we tried to review it and it wasn't very good.
yeah.
Shadowrun was not very good.
Shadowrun Returns is pretty good. I like that game. The one thing we missed on Friday, Valve released a video demonstrating its new controller. I'm not sure if
Hmm.
you had a chance to actually watch that.
I am not.
Well, okay. Well, that's great. It looks interesting. You should watch it just purely to see how it functions. I don't think it goes too much further in being able to dissuade any critics that don't quite know how that's going to work. But I think it is super fascinating, and it's pretty cool that they use Papers, Please as one of the games. They demonstrate basically trying to. I guess I'd have to watch it again, but basically, like, they use both trackpads to allow you to manipulate the mouse control in a way. It's weird. You should watch it. Like, Papers,
Okay.
Please specifically, the way they use it is incredibly strange, but also kind of cool. Um,
I like incredibly strange but kind of cool.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking
I
of
still
Papers,
don't.
Please,
Yeah,
just real quick, that is $6 on sale on Steam right now. If you're looking for a good game for $6,
yeah. People should play that game.
totally.
I need to go back at some point and check out a couple more of the endings. But I don't know. That game was so depressing. I don't really want to go back and play it. I kind of had my moment with it, and I feel like I've moved on.
It definitely has an oppressive quality to it that makes it hard to want to keep playing it over and over again. But that's sort of the point, then, isn't it?
It is. I don't know. No, I don't really. Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
that's a video game that sounds like someone would make.
Yeah, Beanox is okay. They're not. You could do
They do
worse.
stuff.
You
They
could
made
do
some
worse.
okay ports of Guitar Hero.
Yeah, that's true. I never saw the Amazing Spider-Man, the movie.
I didn't either.
I did not like. I really like my superhero movies, and I'll watch pretty much everything. But I had zero interest in another Spider-Man flick, another
Yeah,
origin
three
story.
really sucked a lot of the life out of whatever franchise that was at that point. And I mean, as much as I am glad that they got away from the Tobey Maguire Peter Parker because he had gotten pretty insufferable by that movie, I don't care enough about Spider-Man to want to watch all new Spider-Man origin story so quickly after the last one.
No, but I do want to see Paul Giamatti as Rhino.
There
So,
is that, and
so
Jamie Foxx as
maybe I'll just.
Electro.
Yeah, it's just super strange. Oh, dog
Doggy.
attack, dog attack. They're just trying to protect me.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I do want to see Paul Giamatti as Rhino, so I'll
I want
probably
to see
see
Paul
that
Giamatti as
sometime.
anything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You got anything else? I don't really see anything
I
else.
don't. There wasn't much this weekend, so I think we should move on from news at this point.
Yeah. Blackwatch asked, "Do you think Nintendo will return to the Super Mario Galaxy series?" I don't know. What do you
Eventually,
think?
I think eventually. I think one, it's going to kind of depend on how the Wii U shakes out in the next year and a half. Obviously, we're getting the new 3D Super Mario World, which looks great. You and I have talked at length about how much we are looking forward to that one.
That's true.
But I mean, it kind of depends on where the Wii U is in a year. I mean, it's like once that game comes out, and then whatever comes out next year comes out. Like, is that system still going to be supported by anyone other than Nintendo? Are they going to have anything to do with it? In which case, maybe there's a 3DS Mario Galaxy to be made that could be interesting if they wanted to go that route. But there's a lot of weird X factors to still consider with Nintendo, and it's like if they're not making that game right now, then there's no reason to believe that it's in the immediate future something that they're working on. It seems like if they're trying to finish up this other Mario game right now, then those guys probably wouldn't go to work on a new Galaxy until that's out and has been done for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if there was a Super Mario Galaxy 3, but I
Yeah,
also feel like Super Mario Galaxy 2 took that, that sort of shakeup of the formula about as far as you could take it. I think it's similar to Rayman in the sense that would I happily play a Mario Galaxy 3, and would it probably surprise me at what they were able to do with something that I thought they had done everything they could do? Probably. But I also would rather they get a chance to, do something, whatever next spin they want to take on it. I mean, like Super Mario 3D Land was unique in the sense that it was a 3D game, but essentially a 2D game. Like
right.
they tried to have it both ways and successfully managed to have it both ways. Whereas Galaxy is a full-on embrace of what is possible through 3 dimensions.
Right.
And so yeah, I support that team doing whatever the hell they want to do. But I
Agree.
also feel like they are a team that whatever you throw them at, they will surprise you at how good they are able to. They seem, like Michel Ancel, like the ability for that team to do surprising and innovative things in a space that otherwise would seem constraining continues to surprise me.
Yeah, I agree, and I honestly I do hope they make another one. In fact, and as much as I tend to doomsay the Wii U, I don't want the Wii U to just disappear. Like I don't want that system to just go away. I'd rather it was successful because even if it is weird and kind of different than what the One and the PS4 are doing, like I like that there's something else out there that's kind of bizarre and fringe, and Nintendo has, can do its own thing on it, and ideally there's third-party support for it, but obviously right now that's kind of an issue. So I want that system to continue to be healthy and do well, and I would love to see a new Galaxy on that system because I bet it would look fucking gorgeous on it.
I really like the suggestion from Minty Ice, Papers, Please, set in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Oh fuck, dude! Yeah.
Someone needs to get on that. Someone needs to reskin Papers, Please with
that would make a really good eShop game.
This really crazy dystopian Mushroom Kingdom. God damn, that's a good idea. That is a good idea.
I love it.
JDP83 says, "What is this cross-industry obsession with second screen experiences? I keep hearing it on TV shows as well with games. This sounds horrible and distracting. Why would anyone want this?"
I can think of a couple of reasons. One, tablets are so hot right now. Everyone has a goddamn tablet. Most people have iPads, but lots of people have, all sorts of different tablets. This is a way to add content to games that you're theoretically already buying. Get your tablet devices involved. It's an easy buzz marketing thing that they can kind of just throw in there and say, look, we have this extra second screen experience, so this expensive tablet you already bought will totally work with this game that we're trying to sell you right now. Because people like the idea that there are things that they spend a lot of money on are useful for many different things, and it gives them, it sounds appealing, at least from a marketing perspective. Now, in practice, a lot of that shit doesn't really work very well or do anything of note. The Madden thing that I talked about earlier was actually one of the few times when I've looked at it and go, you know what? I might actually mess with this because some of the defensive stuff that it talks about doing actually seems like it would be useful. Another game I saw last week, which is still under embargo, I cannot talk about until later this week, was less useful, honestly. And it was more of an example of the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, this sounds like a really good idea until you actually look at what it is and think, well, this is kind of neat as a novelty thing, but not really something that I could ever see myself doing regularly. It is, to me, the tablet equivalent in a lot of these cases of, actually going back to Super Mario Galaxy, using the Wii Remote to collect all the damn stars, because it's just like, it's the idea, it's catnip for someone sitting next to you to play around and do stuff, but it's not really, integral or interesting to the game, honestly, I don't think.
Well, and that's actually what I think is strange about some of those, second screen experiences, whatever you want to call them. But like, at least in Galaxy, the level of interaction that the second person is having does not require them to be competent at interacting in a 3D space and being able to sort of competently play a 3D platformer. That's sort of the reason that split is so wide. It's one person is actually playing this 3D game, the other person is just helping you collect things to get 1-ups, which are completely useless in the Mario games, and is one of the weird design decisions that continues to kind of just hobble along because it's always had it. As opposed to something like The Division, of what they have showed of that game, where the stuff you could do on a tablet is actually pretty meaningful, or at least appears to be meaningful. We have to kind of take their word on it till we have a chance to play it ourselves, but appears to be pretty meaningful in terms of what interactions the person using the tablet or phone can do to influence what's happening in the main game. But at that point, doesn't that the kind of person that wants to sit down and do that just want to play the game? I don't think my my wife's gonna want to sit and call in air support. That's that. At that point, at some point, it's getting too involved in what's happening in the game that I fail to see the appeal outside of saying, look, we came up with an interesting way to use it, but that not anyone is going to want to practically use when they could actually just be playing the game instead. I think like the use case scenario of you being on a bus and your buddies are playing and you can help them out, like seems like a good commercial fodder, but like when that's going to actually happen in practice seems like it wouldn't be that often.
Yeah, I think if you can find the right thing, and someone mentioned this in the chat, and I have heard other people mention this, that the Battlefield 4 stuff actually works really well. If you're really into Battlefield and you want to use it for like, loadouts and changing servers and all that kind of stuff, like that, I guess that app is really another good example of that being done well. But I think the original question was, why are so many people doing it? And it is because it is kind of a fad. It's kind of a trend. I think if you can find something really useful for the game that actually, it doesn't require you constantly juggling stuff, you can do it kind of seamlessly and it actually has meaningful impact on the game, then by all means, Mazel Tov, do it, bring it to the, second screen experience. But a lot of the games I've seen so far that have done it haven't done it in a particularly meaningful or interesting way. So I'm waiting, for something to really kind of blow me away with that stuff. At best, I have found like interesting curiosities and, potentially neat ideas. Nothing that's really like grabbed me yet. So I'm still waiting on that.
Let's see. So I will at least acknowledge in the chat someone asked if I had let's see, Maxo Power asked if the Vita version of Rayman was missing a bunch of levels. Ubisoft promised to update the game and add the missing stuff, but they haven't. Have you heard anything? No, I have not, but I can shoot an email to Ubisoft today and see if I can figure out what's going on with that.
Yeah, they said a patch was coming, but they never gave a date for it, so.
Right. Degsy Bright asked, do you think that with the next gen on the way, publishers might use this as a chance to try new things on a new platform, or will they stick to the cash cows and just not take any risk? New platforms tend to be where new IP comes into play. I mean, that's Watch Dogs. I would not be surprised if something like Watch Dogs takes off, that suddenly you see far fewer Assassin's Creed games, or maybe that goes every other year as a way of transitioning to something new. But I think next E3 is where we're going to see a lot of those announcements start happening. It doesn't look like, at least so far, I'm trying to think if there would be a game that would fit it. Sort of an Oblivion type game, which is like an incredibly ambitious game that comes like in the first 6 months that kind of surprises everyone for how ambitious as it is early on in a console cycle. But I can't think of any game that might fit that mold. I mean, it's weirder now because we have way more games that are going to be straddling 2 generations as opposed to debuting exclusively on one or the other. And I think those kinds of games are ones we probably won't see till next fall anyway. But I expect around next E3 we'll hear more of that stuff.
I just can't wait until Watch Dogs 4, where you're a pirate with a cell phone.
Yeah, just merge those 2 universes together. Why not?
Yeah. Makes total sense.
Why not? Oh, let's see. I'm gonna find one more question. Oh, Cold Phone asks, do you know where you're speaking on Saturday? No, I don't. It's Dearborn campus, right? I think something like that. Any word on a Giant Bomb meetup? Yeah, I'll announce details of something about that later in the week.
Cool.
I got to do that next Saturday. Oof.
Yeah, that's soon.
Yeah, I've been practicing every night, and I've now gotten to the point that I can. It doesn't mean that what I'm going to say is any good, but I have now gotten to the point where what I can say it without looking at my notes. So, so I can give the speech, no guarantees of quality of said speech. But I feel that's good enough for now. Now I am no longer as nervous.
Once you're past the memorization phase, that's when you can start adding some flourishes and some, work on your tone and make sure that you're delivering it in that properly TED talk kind of cadence. You have to nail that exact talk style. Otherwise, it's just gonna all fall apart, man.
Yeah. So what's the next big game? Is it Batman? Is Batman the next one on the horizon?
Oh yeah, Batman is up pretty soon here. What is that, next week or the week after? I'm looking at the new games page here right now. Let's see. Well, this week we have Lego Marvel Superheroes.
Okay.
We have Rocksmith 2014. Wait, no, that's next week. I'm looking at next week. Sorry, I'm an idiot. This week is not very much.
Okay.
there's almost nothing this week. God of War Ascension is now out on PlayStation Network. Get hype. Skylanders, really, no one wants to compete with Skylanders this week. So this week is Skylanders Swap Force. There's a quick look at that up on the site right now. Lego Marvel Superheroes is next week, alongside Rocksmith 2014 edition, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, and Batman Arkham Origins, as well as Arkham Origins Blackgate for handhelds. And then it turns into a giant shit show, because after that it's Assassin's Creed 4, Battlefield 4, Sonic Lost World, WWE 2K14, God, yeah, and Angry Birds Star Wars comes to consoles, Castlevania Lords of Shadow, Mirror Fate HD is out. There's a lot of shit going on, and then and then Call of Duty after that. So there is, we're in the thick of it, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the thick of it, Patrick. How are you feeling about stuff right now? How are you feeling about this holiday season?
I'm feeling okay. Like Assassin's Creed, I won't play right away because I'm either gonna play the PC version or the next gen version. I definitely got pretty spooked by the PC specs for Watch Dogs. We'll see how that actually ends up playing out in practice. Mm-hmm. But that was definitely the first indication of, it's been really nice that PC ports have gotten better and that you don't have to spend that much money in order to have a pretty competent PC. But unless Watch Dogs is horribly unoptimized, which I suppose is a possibility, PC specs are about to take a pretty huge jump in order for you to run those games, at 1080p and a reasonable frame rate. I'm not a 60 frames per second obsessor. I'm okay with 30. So we'll see where that stuff lands. But I definitely, I want to play Assassin's Creed 4 and I want to play Watch Dogs, and it's like I'm gonna wait and play. I'm gonna play those games on either a PC or a next gen console, so I can push Assassin's Creed, but. I guess Batman. And I'm genuinely curious to see how those handheld versions turn out.
Yeah, I think the console version looks good.
Yeah, and I played the Vita one at E3, and it seemed interesting.
Yeah,
and I'll play a game from the Metroid Prime developers for sure.
Totally, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out here. I've heard people say nice things about Sonic Lost World, which I still don't really know what to make of at all, but whatever. Battlefield 4 and Call of Duty are obviously their own big-ass deals. I kind of want to play Lego Marvel Superheroes. What I saw of it was cute, and I haven't played a good Lego game in a while, and sometimes I like to, kind of just vegetate with one of those, just kind of, let the cute stuff happen in front of me without having to think a whole lot. And if one of those games is good, that's usually a good space to do that in. And that one looks fun, looks cute. So
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a show.
I think that is a show.
I think that is a show. So what do you got going on this week? I guess maybe, are you going to review Batman? I guess you might be getting Batman this week.
I don't know. I haven't talked about reviewing Batman, but I could review Batman. That one I should probably at least ask about here soon. Other than that, I got some video stuff. I am finally done playing through the games to do a couple of Bombasca entries.
All right.
And I need to talk to you at some point about figuring out this live stream stuff, because I want to actually start doing that here relatively in the near future. So
yeah, what was the name of your thing that you came up with?
Blight Club.
Yeah, that's a great name. Yeah, I'll try and help you figure that stuff out. So if maybe if nothing else, we can do a test run of that later this week. But that sounds like some fun as we try to maintain our sanity for the next couple of weeks.
Or ruin it entirely.
Yeah. I will answer this last question before we leave. Dogma asked, does anyone in the Giant Bomb crew have the Dark Souls 2 beta? I got an invite, and I passed it on to the one person who could really use it, Vinny Caravella, so it is in his hands to do something with that, but I don't think he has access yet. I sent over his information, but I don't think he quite is in it yet. So Vinny has that, so I look forward to that. And yeah, I'm going to have a bunch of horror stuff this week, working that stuff out. But a lot. I've used up a lot of my material. We'll be winding down, and I want to do a Spookin' with Scoops this week, but I don't know if I have to leave from Michigan early, so I'm not sure if I'll have time to do it this week. But I should be able to do the morning show on Friday from my hotel.
Yeah, I'm leaving on Friday as well for my own little vacation. Though we're going out to Massachusetts to go hang out in Salem and a couple of other places. We're gonna go stay at the Lizzie Borden murder house
Okay.
this weekend, so that'll be fun. But yeah, I will also be here Friday morning to do the show. So no episode being we're not skipping episodes. We're gonna be here. We're
All
gonna do
right.
this.
All right, Alex. Well, I will talk to you on Friday then.
Ow! See you later, dude.